Okay, it's time to huddle up, mathletes. This is your math coach, and today we will solve one-step addition and subtraction equations. As we look to do this, it's very important that we understand what it means to use the inverse, or what inverse means. Let's take a look at what inverse means. The definition of inverse is something that is the opposite or reverse of something else. Let me give you an example of what we're talking about here. Here we have a picture of the mohawk. Very good looking hairstyle. Here we have something known as the inverse mohawk. Definitely not as good looking. But as you can see here, the inverse is almost the opposite or the reverse of something else. So we're almost thinking opposites. Alright, so now as we talk about addition and subtraction equations, the inverse of adding is subtracting. And the inverse of subtracting is adding. Let's take a look as we solve some problems how we're going to use the concept of inverse. Alright, here we have two problems and we need to solve these problems. What I'm going to do first is I have to keep in mind what this equal sign means. And what it really means is that the two sides of the equation are balanced. To remind myself that what I need to keep them balanced, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line through the equal sign. That means whatever I do on this side, I have to do on this side. So now we're going to use that concept of inverse. I'm going to work backwards and I'm going to use what's called the inverse operation. So once I find my variable, I say, what am I doing to this variable? And in this problem, I'm adding 35. Well, the inverse of adding 35 is subtracting 35. So I'm going to subtract 35 on both sides of my equation. Now when I do that, on this side, it's pretty simple. These 35s, because when I add 35 to something and subtract 35 from something, they really just cancel. So I'm left with this v here on my variable. On this side, though, I have some work to do. I'm going to subtract. I'm going to take 13, and I'm going to take away from it 35. Well, if I'm taking 35 away from 13, I know I'm going to end with a negative number. But let's go ahead and let's do that subtraction. Let's go stop, chop, chop. Now, it's easy to see that I'm going to end up with more negatives. So when I do my canceling, I'm going to end up with negative 22. At this point, it's always a good idea to go back and check to see if our answer makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what I found for v, I'm going to put it back in for v to see if I'm right. So I've got 13 and then negative 22 plus 35. Now when I combine these two, I have to cancel or subtract. 35 minus 22 is 13. And I know I found the right solution because, again, this is a true statement. Now, as we move on to the second problem here, f plus negative 5 equals negative 8. Again, draw your line when you solve to make sure the two sides stay in balance. I'm going to do the inverse of adding negative 5, which is subtracting negative 5. Subtracting negative 5. And notice I do it on both sides of the equation. Remember, on this side it cancels, so I'm left with f. On this side, stop, chop, chop. I have negative 8 plus positive 5, which leaves me with negative 3. So now let's check this answer. This is my answer. We'll put it back in for f. So I'm going to take negative 3 plus negative 5. And now we're just going to check to make sure that my answer is right. And negative 3 plus negative 5 is negative 8. So I know I found my right answer. So again, my two answers here are v is equal to negative 22 and f is equal to negative 3. Well, great session, guys. I hope that this helps you. Again, don't forget to keep practicing, and from your math coach, keep working those math muscles.